Hey y'all, it's Renegade. I have been getting over the flu for the last couple of weeks, but I am back and I am so happy to be recapping all of the insanity of the last 2 weeks of Survivor 46. Gotta be kind of happy that these last two episodes were kind of similar here, so I feel like this might have happened at a good time. And I'm actually very happy to be joined by another member of our community tonight to kiki over all of the events. And tonight I have another org legend joining us in the studio. Fun fact, I actually hosted my own 20 edition Survivor series way back when, and my guest tonight was not only my first boot ever, but also the only two-time winner we had in the entire of the game's history. So everybody, please welcome to the podcast the one and only Phil MTS. Phil, how are you doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for having me, and thanks for telling everyone I was your first boot ever, even though it's
I mean,
okay.
but you
I
were
was
also
inactive.
Sandra.
I was accidentally inactive, and then I came. Well, okay. Fun fact about that game: I was voted out first because I was inactive by accident, but then I came back in an outcast twist and got fifth. So
See, so
not too bad.
technically, weren't even the first boot. You redeemed yourself, so.
Yes, and then I came back and won twice. So I have redeemed myself. But I'm the perfect bookend of that series. So
Honestly, and what's funny to me too, Phil, is I could kind of remember way back in the day when I stumbled upon Survivor Sucks. I think like during Survivor Amazon, and I remember the very first time I even saw your name playing as Joanna in a Survivor Amazon game. Like the thing that we've been
no,
around the series this long is
wait,
insane.
wait, 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 wait. I don't remember
You don't? Oh, I remember it. I remember
playing.
seeing
So
Localicious
my
as Joanna in this Survivor Sucks game.
weird because I have no memory of that because what I remember in orgs. So I started playing orgs in 2003 during I think it was during Survivor Amazon, and we were all on Survivor Sucks together, and that's when like LTS was hosting games still. Lions, Tigers, Survivors. Oh my, the board was hosting games, and Survivor Amazon Fantasy was going on, and the first episode started and someone dropped out, and so the host, I don't even know who it was looking for a replacement, so they messaged me, and I came in as the replacement like mid episode, like after the first challenge, and so they couldn't change my rep, and I was Roger. That was my rep, right?
Oh,
And
maybe you were
everyone hated Roger, and also I came in after we had already lost a challenge, and so I played like half an episode and I was voted out. So like technically that's my first org ever, was a replacement for someone who dropped out, and I had no chance. Like I just was literally a filler because back then the way that orgs worked was that whoever was voted out had to then host the next challenge. Like there was not one singular host who thought of challenges. They just sort of ran the game, and whoever was voted out had to come up with a challenge for everyone else, and that person hosted. So when there was an inactive player, they needed to find someone to replace them. So I came in, was voted out, and then hosted the next challenge.
was gonna
And I
say
was
that's how
Roger.
my whole series like even started, which is hilarious that people get on me about hosting challenges and stuff. I'm like, do you realize back in the day, all I would have had to do is just read
We
votes.
had to correct. Yeah, the person voted out had to host the next challenge. And so I remember like the challenge that I hosted was basically trivia. And so do you remember that like Survivor, the original 365-day calendar with Survivor trivia, like way back
Mhm.
in the day? I
Yeah,
basically had that 365-day calendar, and I just chose trivia questions from that calendar. And I chose like 10 questions or whatever, and people thought that that was the hardest challenge. They're like, "Oh my god, you just thought of the hardest challenge!" But I'm like, I literally just stole these questions from these pieces of paper, and they weren't Googleable questions because they didn't
because
come from
Google
the
wasn't
internet.
even like
They
we didn't have Survivor Wiki
Yeah.
at the time.
So yeah, you actually had to know the answer. And
If you
people were
weren't
like,
like
this challenge
taping
is
these
so
episodes on
hard.
VHS, you weren't going to be able to watch them again.
Correct. Yeah. So that's just a fun fact about my first org. And then the second org I played, the first one I ever signed up for, I won. So that's my like redemption there too as well. So first boot in my first org, and then I won my second. And then I played your series.
Literally Survivor X. Literally Survivor X.
Yeah. So
So
anyways, that's how we know each other.
well, I really want to know your thoughts. I don't think I ever actually got the backstory of like when you started watching. I'm a day oneer. I remember watching the very first episode in my mom's like bed because I was remember it was back in her time when like we would like split rooms because I'd shared room with my brother. But when she wasn't home at work at
Yeah.
night, I would go hang out in her room, make it like it was my room. Still remember watching the very first episode. And poor Sonia, rest in peace, by the way. So sad to
So
see her
my first episode of Survivor is episode 2 of Borneo.
die.
I walked past the TV and they were doing the bug eating challenge, and I was like, "What is this?" And my dad was watching. He had seen the first episode, and so I did not watch the first episode of Survivor. I knew about it, of course. Everyone knew about the show. I mean, everyone knew about it. But yeah, my first episode of Survivor was the bug eating challenge in episode
Nice, nice, iconic, iconic. Honestly, everything
2.
about
Mhm.
those first few seasons are
And
pretty iconic.
yeah, and I remember being like, yeah, I was pretty much hooked. I was hooked pretty much right away, um, just because it was really interesting. So yeah.
What do you think about it really caught your attention to the point where now, 46 seasons later, you are still watching the show?
So I'm not like as much of a super fan as I was, um, but I was really into just like the adventure element, like being on an island, going to exotic locations. Like I'm an old school Survivor fan at heart. I love everything but old school. Even though you watch it back maybe 20 years later and you sort of realize how sometimes it can be boring, sometimes it's just not as exciting. There's a lot more drama, like play wise. But back in the day, I was really interested in like the exotic locations they went to. I learned a lot about um, like geography and like different places in the world, and I did learn about different cultures from some of those early seasons. Like I just was really into it. So when I was young, I always wanted to show just so I could go to a different. I
Mhm.
never did, obviously, but that's like what I really, yeah, that's what I was really into. And now I'm just like I do miss those varied locations. I sort of miss the inland seasons, like they did like Africa and Tocantins and China. Like those were very interesting, just non-traditional locations. I like those a lot, you know. So I do miss sort of the variability in the themes, old school compared to new school.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
definitely like the drama is fun in seasons. Like, I love the strategy. I do like the twists and the way that the game has like evolved in a way. There are certain seasons that I felt were just too twist heavy. I don't really like. My least favorite part about Survivor Twists is when they rehide idols. I hate it.
mm,
I don't mind if an idol, you know, gets flushed and they don't use it and then it just goes away. Like I for some reason I just hate it when they rehide it. I don't know because it's like they always have to have it in there. Like just they fucked up. They ruined their chance. Just let them go. So but I do
yeah,
like all
I
the
could agree
strategy
with
and
that.
stuff. So
Especially like seasons like 38, 35-ish, I think so, where it was very like one person just finding an idol over and over again.
yeah, like
I
every
think it
single
gets a
day.
little
Yeah,
exhausting.
yeah. Which was I was going to ask the question for this season. Like, okay, so you had two flush idols. Have they been reintroduced in
Oh,
the game at all? I don't
we
remember.
have had three flush idols actually, and
Have
two by the
have
same
any of
person.
them been have any of
Not
them
that we've
been
seen.
reintroduced? So okay, I hope they're not. So we're not. So maybe we'll see next episode if they are, but I hope they're not.
I
But
get the feeling that they probably will be.
yeah,
I just,
because production likes that. I mean,
yeah, they don't want to go
I mean,
one round without the idol, and I feel like that's my biggest issue with the way that the rules are now. Is because like with the fire making it four, and you can use your idol for five, you could basically use an idol in every single round if you wanted to, and then get guaranteed safety
right.
at four to at least make fire. I miss that one
Yeah,
round where it feels like gameplay should matter, and you should not be able to use an idol. Personally, for me,
yeah.
was
I
what
mean,
final
as
answer.
you know, as you know from hosting me in orgs, is I love an idol, and I get very creative with how to manipulate people with an idol, and using that I have it or that I don't have it. Like I love the strategy involved with that. In the real game, you see people just mess up. They announce they have the idol, and suddenly they're gone. But like when I played orgs and strategizing, like man, I use idle paranoia to my advantage. It's crazy all the time. It's fun for me. So I love a good idle.
Mhm.
I just don't like it when it's just constantly being rehidden.
I feel that. I feel that. I would say though, if you were to name one old school season as like the season that you would go back, rewatch every single day, what would be your favorite season of Survivor?
Well, there is one season I've watched multiple times. It's Pearl Islands. I love Pearl Islands. I always have.
Yes.
Um, I mean, that's been my favorite forever. Um, yeah, that's my answer for sure. It's Pearl
Good
Islands
choice. Good choice.
because it was one of the first. It was one of the first seasons where like the Outcast twist was shocking and it was controversial. Jeff hated it. I remember he like really regretted that twist, but it was really really interesting. It was
I
really cool how
liked
they
it.
did it, and it was just shocking. It was dramatic and it was just drama and it was good and it actually like impacted the game moving on. It wasn't a revolving door. It changed everything. There's good blind sides. Sandra was like the cockroach that didn't think she would make it, but she turned out to be like a superstar strategist. Like it was good
Hmm.
and just good
Hmm.
moments. It's funny because some of my older school favorite seasons I loved way back in the day. I don't think they've aged well. I wouldn't watch them again. Even though if I was younger, I would like, oh, I watched Outback like multiple times. I don't think I'd watch Outback again.
Oof. Yeah, I
It's,
would agree with you there. Outback
it's
is.
But like when I was young, I was like, this is the best season. I loved it. It was awesome, but it didn't age well. The players didn't age well. The season just didn't age well. But there's the
Yeah, we
nostalgia of
were
the
talking
players.
about
I
that earlier,
still,
actually, about Kucha and
yeah,
how like Kucha used to be like my
yeah.
favorite tribe, and now I'm like, oh my god, this tribe
Kucha,
is cringe
yeah,
as fuck.
Kucha,
Like,
Kucha was everyone's favorite back then. I mean, it was like everyone loved Kucha. It was
I
crazy.
cried when Elizabeth got voted out. Okay, I literally cried. 13-year-old me couldn't
Yeah.
handle it. Okay,
Yep.
it's like they drew a heart on the thing, mom.
Not
Oh
the heart
god,
shaped rock.
I take back all of that. All of that. You know, actually, Roger is a good guy. I'll say we liked Roger. Roger's nice. I'm
That's true.
sure
Yeah,
he did screw
he's aged well.
up. Well, as much as I love kind of living the nostalgia of the old age here, we are in the new era, and as much as it's a very different show, I still think the strategy is still pretty good or whatnot. We get some good stories here and there. I think the editing is a little strange sometimes, but for what it is, especially this season itself here, I think every episode that goes by here, I'm getting more and more excited kind of for what New Era Survivor could possibly bring us. Um, are you feeling pretty good
Yeah.
about season 46 here compared to like the last few?
Yes. So I did not enjoy the first, like, I thought I got off to a really meh start. I was like, oh, this is just like so weird. And I skipped a lot of episodes. I didn't really watch it for a long time. And just recently I just sort of caught up. Um, but the last couple of episodes I think are picking up. Like for a long time, I was like, I don't understand the direction of this season. I don't know what the real storyline is. It's just like, I mean, it's chaotic, right? It's just like you don't know what to expect. And I just didn't think there was a cohesive story, which I don't know if there really is still, and that's okay because it's still entertaining. Just the characters themselves have grown on me
Hmm.
prior,
Hmm.
as the season has gone on. I've started to like people more, with an exception or two, but this season I do like it more than last season. Um, but I think in the new era, my favorite new era season is 44 because I
Okay.
liked I liked the Tika 3. I know
Hmm.
that like a lot of people love the Tika 3 and a lot of people hate the Tika 3.
Is it
But I
Tika 3
like
or
them.
just Carson? I feel like people
I
just
don't
don't like
know.
Carson anymore.
Oh, I don't. I thought people liked Carson, like when the
I
show
feel
was
like the
airing.
internet slightly turned against him
Oh, is it
recently.
just because of like post game stuff? Okay, well that's their own fault. Like they ruined their own image post game because of social media, probably. But um, I thought people really liked Carson. Well, I liked Carolyn, so
Hmm. Carolyn and Jam Jam, or Jam Jam, I think we still have a lot of love for them.
yeah,
Yeah,
I was
Carson
very
maybe
happy
not
with
so
Jam Jam.
much.
So yeah, okay, yeah, I didn't know that, but that's okay. I liked the Tika 3 as you know, I wanted them to be the final three, but okay.
I agree
But
with
it's
that.
funny because you sort of see, or I guess the three purple tribe people from this season that's similar, where they're like in the middle of the two majority tribes, but they're just so much they hate each other more. Like the Tika three love each other, and then the what's the purple tribe name? Yanu or something?
Yanu, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, they don't like they fight so much, and so but it was kind of weird to see the parallels between three and the Yano three because they're both the losing purple tribe, right? And then they somehow become power players, but Yanu has imploded, so that's okay.
That is an understatement. I don't think this purple tribe could be in just the more opposite like positions than they could possibly be going into these episodes that we had here. Especially just
Yeah,
because it's like I feel like these two episodes again are really good to probably talk about together here because I feel like again a lot of the same strategy that gets kind of brought up at the start of one is kind of what we get here in the second one here too. So we can go ahead and get started actually about the first part of episode 10 here. Or sorry, yeah, episode 10 or 9. I think it's 10.
I don't know.
Anyway, Spicy Jeff episode. When we ended up this episode here, where we started, this is where we had the crazy ass tribal council with the Tevin blindside, where everything just went to hell because of Q. And we get back and we realize everybody hates Q. And not only that, but he did it basically just because he was upset the fact that nobody wanted to go along with the plan that he wanted to do. So he decided he wanted to quit now. Not only is he basically on the outside looking in, everybody hates him too because he's somehow ruined everybody's game at some point. He told everybody about Tiffany's
Yes.
idol. He ended up ruining Liz's moment here because now she's upset that he overpowered everything that she was doing here. So now she doesn't get any credit for her move. What were your thoughts about all of this shit that Q was
Oh,
doing up to this?
I mean, I thought it was funny. I mean, Q is one of the players who has grown on me. I just think he's kind of funny. Um, you know, I sometimes love the chaotic players. And you sort of question, was he serious when he wanted to quit? Like I could not take him seriously in that tribal council. And then he comes around and says, like, oh, I was never gonna quit. People say, oh, he was never gonna quit. Like, okay, well then, I didn't know what was happening when he was saying all this stuff. And there was so much there's so much to watch in that tribal council. Like it's hard to focus on what's actually being said for the camera because you see everything else happening. And I think I remember being really upset because I liked Tevin a lot. And I thought, well, I can't believe they're going to get rid of Tevin after all that shit. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was entertaining. And it was kind of interesting seeing them all come back to camp and being so pissed about it and being so affected by it. Because in the end, they got what they wanted, anyways. And
Mhm.
like I know there was a little bit of like, oh, he ruined my game or whatever, but like they still got what they wanted. They wanted Kevin out anyways, so they just stuck with that. So I didn't quite understand why they were so passionately upset and how they hated Q so much. Like I think Q's annoying, but maybe I hate him a thousand islands. But I think
I
he's funny.
mean,
I think
I
he's
can see
funny.
why Tiffany was
It's
pissed,
because
especially.
like yes, but it's because I can't take him seriously. Like so, I'm obviously unaffected. Like I don't care. I
Mhm.
can't take him seriously. Sort of the way that I like Philip Shepard because I don't take him seriously. I just think he's there for fun, and I like watching it. And other people, other fans, like passionately hate Philip Shepard, but I'm like I can't take that seriously, so it's fine. It's fine to me. It's fine to me. I don't care.
Yeah, you do love Philip. I
Why
mean,
not? I
Philip
mean, I don't
is
know.
the
Why not?
Philip Shepard is the only two-time winner in my series, so that explains a few things there. I would say though, how would you take to playing with a chaotic player like Q? Because there seems to be so many chaotic players on this task to the point where it's like, I mean, even when the game started, Q was the one that was trying to coach Banu, but now he's the one
So
that's
okay,
gone like as insane here
how
too.
I
So
would
it's like,
respond?
where would you go here?
Oh, I would. I would be totally fine with it. So the thing is, I would be pissed, like Tiffany was, if he ran his mouth. Like if I trusted somebody and I told them something about like an idol or something, and then they said something to someone else. Of course, I'd be pissed about it. But I mean, I've played with chaotic people in online games. Like I'm fine with that because I'm chaotic as well. And I would I would try to use that to my advantage somehow. Like I would encourage Q to just do whatever. Like, I would just make sure that he doesn't do anything against me. Like I would just sort of subtly encourage it. Like it's fine because like people said in the show, when there's more chaos, it's fine. Like Venus said it. She's like, I love the chaos. Like that would be me. I would love that as long as he's not ruining my game too much. So if I was Tiff, I'd be pissed, right? But
Mhm.
I think I would play it a little bit cooler than Tiff. Like I think Tiff, maybe should just tone it down a little bit and like, yeah, everyone's being very passionate about it, but you're preaching to the choir. Like everyone's pissed. Like just sort of let everyone be pissed, right? So that's the
Mhm.
thing with people and people against Q is that they're all so vocal about their distaste for Q that it sort of becomes meaningless because everyone thinks the same way. You know, like no one's proving a point by saying how annoying Q is because everyone thinks the same.
Right,
So
right,
what's the
right.
right?
It,
So that's where I would just sort of just chill. Let everyone be mad. Let Q do whatever. As long as he doesn't do it against you, you're fine.
mhm. I would say that I'm kind of with you there. I do think Tiffany probably could have reacted a little kinder to him, at least to his face. At least for me, I never would burn a bridge just to burn a bridge, even
Right.
regardless
Right.
whoever Q is. There still might be a possibility that is if you keep that kindness open to him still, that he could come back around at some point later and drop some information to you, like maybe an episode two
Yeah.
later when people are trying to blindside
Yes.
you,
Yeah.
that you could
Well,
be a
that's so when
target.
we were right. So when we were watching the episode, I thought, okay, so when he Q took Tiffany on the reward, and his reason was he's trying to repair whatever, regardless of if that's real or not. Like I bet that was partly real. Like he has this really weird complex where he tries to be this better person, right? So I think he genuinely was like, I'm gonna try to fix this with Tiffany, but also how genuine is it? I don't really know, but I think it's partially genuine. So take it and just take advantage of that. Take advantage of the fact that he might be for real trying to become back in your good graces to the point where if everyone truly is against him and you're not, maybe he would say something in favor. So that I actually fully expected him to get wind of the tip blind side and then him to say something to her and she play
Mhm.
her idol and then them getting back together. I mean, that's kind of what the story kind of I thought was going. That's where I thought it was going, where
Same.
they're against each other, but suddenly they're together, and like in the end, they're really together. They come from Yanu, and after all this, they're still together. Like I just thought that was, but I think just she didn't. I don't think she played her hand right with him. She can still on the side tell other people, yeah, that really made me mad, blah blah blah, and just sort of stoke the flames of everyone against Q. But then when you're playing with Q yourself, be cool about it, accept, any sort of favor that he might be offering because you never know when it's going to pay off. If he had maybe been more willing to accept his apology, whether it be genuine or not, or his olive branch or whatever, it could have actually benefited her. He could have, knowing how volatile he is, he could have let it slip that she was getting bored out and she could have saved herself. So
Mhm.
that's a
Yeah,
mistake
you
that I
never
saw.
could have known what Q possibly could have done there. So, yeah, I agree with you.
And
I
knowing
definitely don't
and
see that
know
as
yeah,
a
and knowing
Tiffany.
he's volatile, knowing he could spill anything at any moment, like you want to be the person he feels to. If you know he says shit, you want to be the person he says shit to. So
Hmm. No,
that's
I
my take.
mean, I see it completely. But Tiffany definitely kind of strikes me as the kind of person that, I don't know if she plays a lot of strategy games or not, because she seems kind of like the person that you do her dirty once. She's like, nope, I'm not fucking with
I
you
mean,
no more. Like she brought a lot of her
she's very
personal
like
mindset into it, it feels like.
yeah,
But this
she's
was
very
something that,
headstrong and she's very headstrong and she is very reactionary. And I liked it a lot. I was really disappointed that she wrote it out, but like she is very just headstrong and
Mhm.
um
Oh,
like
trust, I
she
love Tiffany.
reacts
She was
and
my winner
she's
pick this whole
she's like
time.
she's decisive about yeah and she's decisive about when she has a reaction like she's pissed and she backs up herself being pissed. So, you know, it didn't do her very well. That's okay.
I think she could probably do well with some introspection here. Maybe her next time here. But we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. At least in episode 10, or sorry, episode 9, um, she at least makes it through. She makes some good decisions here. Because at the end of this episode too, I forgot we also have the other outlier, Hunter, who was the only person who did not vote with the Tevin group and is now basically looked as the biggest threat in the game. What were your thoughts on Hunter kind of leading into this? Because I initially, personally, I had some good feelings about Hunter, but then as soon as the merge happened, I saw like a very cocky side to him that I didn't really
You
like
know
in the end.
what? It's interesting because I didn't really see it. I've heard that before, like people really don't like Hunter because he's cocky or whatever, and sort of his celebrating at the challenge, post
That's
challenge
the
or whatever
main
that one was.
thing, really, was
Yeah,
this
I
like
thought
blatant
so
show of
personally,
him
I
just
thought that was a
that.
little bit like overblown. I didn't think that was, I mean, obviously I you notice it when he did the little celebration, but it was like, quick second type of thing. I don't know. I didn't see him like boasting the way
It's
other people
less
have boasted in the past.
boasting in that it's just a very blatant like physical display after you've just done like
Yeah,
this whole endurance challenge, right? And now you're then being like, oh, I could have just been
I
here on
mean,
my
you're just
legs the whole time. Right? I'm just like, ooh,
right,
like it's just
but also
even
like
if it just not it's not a good look, when you have especially have
I
petty
guess I
people like
didn't.
Venus, like Venus will take
Right,
any
but at the
excuse.
same time,
Don't give her
right.
excuses.
Although, okay, I don't like Venus, so I don't really agree with her on a lot of things. But like, we know that Hunter is good. Like, you know that he's good. So why? I don't know why. I don't know why that bothers her so much. Like, I think that she just exposed her own insecurity when she's trying to project this confidence herself, and then she gets mad when someone else projects confidence. So like, just let it go. I don't know. I get that she maybe will try to use that against him, and it maybe worked or whatever. But I don't think she was behind a lot of the strategy involved in that, anyways. But whatever. But like, yeah, I guess I don't care too much if someone did something small like that. Like, I don't know if they got back to camp and sort of were boasting around, or you've had people like that before. I can't name enough of my head, but you've had like
Yeah.
boastful people. I don't think Hunter like was like that, so it didn't bother me too much. Um, I think in the end, I liked Hunter fine. He um, wasn't my favorite, but I liked him more than others. I just didn't think he was as problematic as people sort of made him out to be in terms of this cocky person. But
Well,
he
let me make
clearly
it
was
clear
bad at
that it's not necessarily
strategy.
that I see him like super cocky per se. Like I still really, really like Hunter. It's just there was a different side of him that started to come out when I don't think like there was a lot of other times that he did these really great like physical moves throughout the show. And especially like in the pre-merge, like I still remember the fact when he got the
Well,
him and Tevin
yeah,
went over that stupid thing at the same time, like that was insane. But
yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
There's a
he drags his
different
entire.
way to. I just think you always have to be aware of what your actions could possibly show, and even if he's not intending them to be in a way that's looking like a show off, it's kind of coming off that way. So you,
Right, and so
especially when
yeah,
people
I
already
mean that
see
was a
you as
bad.
the physical threat, you got
Right,
like that was just bad. That was a bad move. But um,
right.
I don't
Although
think he's
as
deep down
even
like a
though they
cocky, terrible person, though.
even
I just
though
want to make that clear.
even though people made a big deal out of it, so even though people made a big deal out of that move, I don't think that actually was very. Like,
I mean, he was
he
probably
was
going to
the
be in
threat
trouble
anyways.
regardless.
Yeah, he was the threat anyway. So like that's why I'm kind of like, whatever. He did that. I don't care. Like I don't
Mhm.
know. But if you're in the game and you're being beat by someone, like, no matter who they are.
I mean, I get you. I get it. It's what it comes down to. I think for Hunter is just, I mean, that's just one of those people in those archetypes when you're physical, and I think you're always gonna have to, it's kind of like the guys that kind of just look like fuckboys. Like even if you're not, you're gonna have to deal with that stereotype. So you're in the archetype of like
Right.
the golden boy. So it's just certain things you have to do as that. to play yourself down. And I don't think
I
Hunter
think I think I think
did
Hunter was
it
like one of the least
completely.
yeah, I think Hunter was like one of the least offensive, strong, like challenge beats that the show has seen in a long time. Like I don't know
Oh,
because he wasn't very good.
definitely.
He wasn't very good like strategy wise. Like he didn't like yeah he won challenges and stuff. He dragged his tribe through the pretty much. I mean that was his first mistake was dragging his entire tribe through the pre-merge and
Yep.
not going to tribal council. Like I truly think that if you win every single challenge in the pre-merge, that's a bad strategy move.
Yep.
I actually do believe that. And look, the person who is on the bottom of Nami is still there. So you should not have gone to the merge with your entire tribe intact, especially knowing how fractured your tribe was in the merge. Every tribe was fractured. You
Hmm.
should have gone tribal council early. So I mean that was their mistake. But when you're playing the game, you want to win the challenges, but I don't think they should have done it.
Hmm. No, I agree. I agree with you too. There's plenty of times where it feels like if Venus is not here at this merge, him and Tevin are still in the game. I don't
Right.
see a reason why they wouldn't be. You know, like Venus is the main reason why they're gone. So the fact she is still here is still crazy to me. Like, it's still crazy to me.
I don't think Phoenix.
There's,
I don't think Phoenix is the main reason why they're gone. But I mean, I think Venus is just being carried on, carried along.
I mean, yeah. I mean, to yeah, I would say yeah. It's kind of hard to say though, because there's so many people. Looking over just like the final group that we have here, Hugh, Liz, Venus. I'm like all Ben
Maria.
even to some degree. I'm like all these people are like what are they doing? They could all literally be goats
Oh,
on any other season. And
sure,
I'm like, there's so many of them, you know? So it's just like
right.
I think
But you have
you're used to like
so many people who are you have so many people who are just trying to jockey for that. I made a move. I mean, everyone's getting what is it, the big movitis.
mhm,
Everyone wants to make this big move, and they want to be credited with the move. And I think maybe we'll see it next episode or something. Maybe Maria gets this big movitis thing that she's all proud of it. I think that might come back bite her. I don't know because everyone who tries to make a big move, it's like, yeah, we get it. That's how you like play Survivor these days. Big movitis, but I think big moves are overrated. I like small subtle moves, but it's harder to argue in the end, right? It's very hard to
mhm.
argue
Well,
small
we're
subtle
old school
moves.
players, so we're used to kind of like making a final two with somebody and being like, hey, let's just go down to the end and fight it out. Like there's a kind of a confidence I feel like in players
But then
like
still,
us
yeah.
because
But then
we're
still,
not afraid of
you're still
competition to some
jockeying, and
degree.
you're still jockeying for that power. You're still trying to do whatever you can do to boost yourself in the end. But at the same time, you do have to sort of set yourself up for some sort of failure because the stronger you are at the end, the less likely you're going to go to the end. So you
Hmm.
have to be willing to look dumb at some point. As
Oh,
long as you can overcome that, as long as you can overcome that, like being blindsided by somebody, not being voted out, but like, your best ally is voted out. Like Hunter, if he was a good player, he could have rebounded from being blindsided by the Tevin vote, and maybe found a spot. A good player could rebound from that and say, "Hey, I wasn't in control of that vote, but like I came back." You know,
mhm, mhm. And
that's my
I do
thought of
think that's a
like,
great point actually that you make there. About I think the new era, you have to have flaws. You can't be
you have,
a
you
perfect
have to
player
have flaws.
anymore.
Yeah,
You have to have some sort of flaws because you need to have some reason for people to still devalue your game to some degree, even though you know that
yeah.
you're still
You
playing. You know, you need
you
other
have
things
you
outside
have
of
to
just who
go to
you
that
are for people to underestimate.
you have to go to that final tribal council with someone who is going to rip you to shreds, or you don't think they're going to get that vote. You have to be. I mean, if you make it to the final five or four with every jury vote locked up, people are just they're not afraid to cut you. They don't care. They will cut the best, most loved person. Obviously, maybe back
Just
in the
look at
day they
Jesse.
weren't so willing to cut. Yeah, they weren't willing to cut the Tom Westman. They weren't willing to cut those types of people. Now they will, you know.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I don't. If someone's bad, they have to have some. I want to see good strategy. I want to see good thinking. I want to see people have a good social game. Being able to make the moves. But if you're trying to make every single big move, and like I don't like the word resume on Survivor, even though I know that everyone's doing it. Like that's what you do. I don't like it when they talk about their resumes. I just don't like the whole I'm doing this resume thing. It's like just do it. But that's a personal pet peeve of mine.
I mean, there was a lot of talk about resumes over these last couple episodes here, um,
Yeah,
especially
and in the last couple
because
seasons in general.
I think it has a lot to do with that final tribal council format, honestly, and the fact that they kind of changed it up. And I feel like just some course over just the way that the games were played and the way that people were kind of vocalizing things, it just became like the thing that you have to make a big move and you have to have your own move. And it's like I I think that there's a way to also play the game subtly and to not necessarily have, like you're saying, make gigantic moves every single time and still be a successful player if you're still getting people out that you need to get out that aren't benefiting your game. So the big move era, I, it still flops to me personally, and I think this episode, and I think the next couple episodes honestly could have a running theme that we've seen, which is get rid of your number one immediately. And it's like we're at the final eight, and people are already getting rid of their best person here. Like for example, the big twist to me at the end of episode 10 was when we find out that, well, first Maria, as you kind of already mentioned here. Well, actually, let me rewind a couple seconds here because I forgot Charlie had to beat Hunter in an endurance challenge in the immunity. So that happened there. There also, can we also talk about, hold up, before this, that giant fight that happened before the challenge? Love Tiffany. She makes me cackle so much. Um, but also another situation here where it's like Tiffany, why can't you just let it go? Just let it go,
Yeah.
girl. Like, there's a point here over these next two episodes where I think she says it here that she hasn't heard a name other than Q, but it's also the only name that she's saying, and it feels like she's the only
Right.
like he's the most passionate about this,
Yeah.
and so it just you could
That should have been
see
her
her
first
start to
red
get
flag that it was
very
her.
caught up in this. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like you haven't heard any other names, so, and you know there's always a subplot.
That's
You were the subplot last
that's
time,
your red flag. Yeah. Yeah.
so we do find out that Tiffany, unfortunately, is the subplot because of her idol. And initially,
Right.
Charlie and Maria want to strike on her before Hunter and before Q because they're like, oh, we need to get rid of her idol because we know she has one. But Tiffany oh, well, actually, let me hang up seconds before this because the other revelation we get is that Kenzie was ready to get rid of Tiffany that night too. I'm like, Kenzie, what are you doing, girl? Like, I'm like, it's final nine. But also, something about Kenzie's game that strikes me very strange is I feel like she's very good with Ben, Charlie, and Maria.
Yes.
Like, it
Yes.
seems
I
very
think
clear
I
she's
think
with them.
Kenzie I think Kenzie's relationship with Ben is what is going to um, bring her to the end game. Um,
Agreed.
I and yeah, there were some early scenes with her and Ben that I was like, whoa, these are like really important. Like these are really important scenes.
It felt
Um,
random,
and
right?
you could
Like,
see
we
it.
didn't get
It
anything, any kind
felt
of inter-tribe connection between
Yeah,
anybody,
it
but then
felt
it's like
it felt like
so much
it could have
focus on Ben.
easily, yeah. These scenes could have easily been ignored,
Hmm.
if they weren't important down the
Yeah.
line. And so when you sort of notice that and think about it, and you sort of see the way that she's always like, "Oh yeah, I can talk to Ben, I can talk to Ben," and at first you're sort of thinking, "Oh, it's like Ben is with the Green Tribe or whatever the name is, but then you're like, no, I think that Ben will trust Kenzie more than anyone else because it has to be obvious that Charlie and Maria are a pair,
Hmm.
and I think that Ben is actually Kenzie's number one.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's
I
what I
agree
think.
with that too.
And
I
so
see it a lot after this
and so
episode too.
yeah, normally I would think, okay, Tiffany or Kenzie's trying to get rid of Tiffany, Like, why would you get rid of your best ally? Because I think about other seasons where mid merge, kind of towards the end, you see two besties cut each other. You know, Gabby did it with Christian, or tried to with Christian, and it like flop. And you just see these people cut their besties and then get immediately cut. I don't think that will actually happen to Kenzie because you know that Tiffany and Kenzie weren't besties because Tiffany had her side alliance with Q in the six, which Kenzie wasn't a part of, and Kenzie knew about that. So, regardless of we know that Kenzie was on the outside sometimes in early Yanu. Even though she talks about Tiffany as her bestie, you know that at times they weren't. And
Mhm.
so, for Kenzie to get rid of Tiffany was slightly shocking, but I don't think it'll bite her in the butt immediately, in the way that other like super tight players. Um, I think that would come back to haunt them because I think Kenzie does have Ben as a backup, ties to Maria and Charlie, who I think Maria and Charlie will become a very visible pair, especially after this move. I think they're going to get singled out as a pair, and
What
for
I
Kenzie
feel like
for
for
herself,
especially with Charlie, he's just won two challenges in a row too. I'm like, so not only are you
right?
pulling off big moves, you're now taking Hunter's spot as the big challenge beast. Like,
Yeah, and I want to say something about that actually because I thought about this when Charlie beat Hunter for the first time. I thought, God, what the hell, Hunter? If you had a brain, you would sort of try to appeal to Charlie and say, "Hey, look, you can beat me. I'm not this invincible person." I've always thought this too. Like one person is very rarely just invincible in these challenges. I mean, they're in the new era Survivor. You have every single immediate challenge is like an endurance, right? And that can cater to a lot of different types of people. There are some endurance challenges that are very, very good for smaller, petite people who can balance on small perches. Some endurance challenges are very good for people with, upper body strength. A lot of times, you have some challenges that are just very, very well catered to women. Some are very well catered to men. So I don't like the endurance challenge format where there's all endurance challenges, but it's much less predictable. You can't say that one person is going to win every challenge because a lot of different types of bodies can win these endurance challenges. So when Hunter lost, I thought, man, if he was smart, he would appeal to Charlie and say, look, I'm not invincible. Like you can beat me. Like let's work together. He tried to work with somebody, but it just didn't. And now Charlie got rid of that threat and became the threat, and maybe that'll bite him in the butt.
mhm,
Like you have to have someone that like you can say, well, that person can beat me. You know, it's a weird balancing thing too. But
mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Hunter would be very scary to go up against because of his incredibly strong pre-merge showing. Like it totally makes sense to get rid of Hunter when they did. Um, I'm just trying to think of the alternative, like right. I'm just trying to think of the different alternate strategy
Mhm.
on Hunter's end. If he was strategic in order to save himself, what could he argue? But he didn't think of that, at
Yeah,
least.
well, you know what he did try to think of though was telling everybody at the last second, right after
Right.
everybody gets off of the Tiffany vote, by the way, because I forgot, Charlie does go to Tiffany. Tiffany's like, I'm playing my idol. So Charlie's like, okay, screw it. We can't vote
Right.
for Tiffany if she's playing the idol. They get off the plan for Tiffany, and they all decide. I think at some point they were going for Hunter, but then Hunter decides at the 11th hour, literally like probably like 5 minutes before they go to the tribal council. I want to say that Venus said it was or something like that, but Venus was probably,
It's 10, yeah, 10 minutes,
it
yeah.
was probably like 10 or 15.
It was probably, yeah, it was probably very
Um,
close, yeah.
But he tells everybody, or tells Liz and Venus that he has the idol. He's going to play it, and that they need to blindside Ben, which I actually don't think is a bad move if he would have said it hours ago. Like,
Right.
I don't know what like, for some reason people think that holding on to these like bombs for tribal council and like doing things at the very last minute or what people want to do like to make like a big move. Like I think that has the exact
Yeah,
opposite effect. If you don't give somebody enough
it
time to
does.
really think of the options, they're going to go with the one that they've thought about more. They're not going to go with a half-assed
Because
plan
the
that gets put together at the last couple
the trick
seconds.
the trick is to make it seem like it's their idea, right? Like people want to have some sort of ownership over a decision. People, I mean, I would get offended. I don't want someone coming up to me at the last second and telling me what to do. That's the exact opposite of what I would want. So I understand that. And I think most people do not want to be told what to do, because they're like we talked about, they're trying to be these power players. And so, you have to sort of let someone think that they're coming up with the plan or they have input on the plan so that they can feel some sort of investment in the plan. And that's how they feel good about the result. And so dropping a bomb on someone the last second is not effective. And so in this case, he should have just seriously not said anything, um, and just played his idol. But he wouldn't have been able to get a vote onto Ben. He would have just nullified votes against him, and maybe he would have gone or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, but he could
From
have tried to subtly get people against Ben without telling them of the idol, but I don't think it would have worked. I think he could have saved himself one more day and hope he wins the next community. But I mean, yeah, obviously telling people about the idol was a bad
I think he gets
because it,
one
it,
vote
it gives
for
them
sure
it
on
gives
Ben
them
with him. Because Liz says that after Tribal Council at the start of episode 10, that she was with Hunter, that she wanted to work with Hunter to get rid of Q. So it's possible that had she actually like talked to Liz earlier, they could have at least put two votes on Ben. And who knows what would have happened like through the rest of the votes. But if he plays the idol, he gets the majority of the votes. It's possible those two
yeah.
votes for
I mean,
Ben are enough to get, whatever votes they need to get the majority.
yeah.
And who knows if they only put one vote on Q, you know? So
He by telling them about the idol, he set them up for a last minute scramble for a split vote. I mean, he set it up perfectly. I mean, you have enough votes. They said like what 8 votes or whatever it was, like 9 votes, I think,
it was nine,
with
yeah.
hunters. Like you set them up perfectly for a split. Like of course they're going to split. Telling them about your idol is not going to get them to not vote.
It's just going to make them
They're
want to
just
vote
going
for
to
you more or make sure you get
they're
a
just going to
majority so
deflect.
that way if
They're just
you don't
yeah, they're
click it,
just
then
gonna
you're gone.
yeah. And there's too many people left in the game. There's too many votes in play. It's a perfect number, 8. You can't play around 8 votes, you know,
hmm hmm
unless you're unless you have power. So yeah, I mean, obviously it was done. It's gone. So he should have just I don't know dropped the bomb and played his idol, and then I don't know see what happens. But it was too bad. It's unfortunate, but oh well.
hmm Yeah, so sadly, unfortunately, Hunter does not play his idol, and he becomes the second person of the season to leave the game with an idol in their pocket. But sadly, he won't be the only person to be there for long, because this episode basically kind of turns into, I would say, the exact same thing that the last episodes were here. That we get Q as the main target, everybody's saying Q, but as Maria has said, she's ready for a big move. She was pissed that she couldn't go through the TIFF vote before, mostly because, and something actually I wanted to ask you about this. I don't know if we talked about this, but there was this uh, part of the reason why Maria said that she didn't want to go through with it is because Kenzie was the one that initially started bringing up Tiffany's name, and now she wasn't going to get any
Yeah,
credit, even though she was
yeah,
kind of thinking it too. Do you think she's
yeah.
justified in thinking this way, or do you think this is just I feel like people worry about who's getting credit over moves before they even get to the final
Oh
three, because
yeah,
all she has to do at this point,
oh yeah.
vote out Kenzie, and now you get credit for it, girl. What
Right.
like
I mean, you
what are your thoughts
see
on
so
this?
many people complaining. I mean, you saw Venus complaining about not getting credit for things with the Kevin stuff. You see Liz complaining about not getting credit. People want credit. But yeah, I mean, you said it. If you're threatened by someone getting credit, you just vote Kenzie out. You know, it. I mean, I don't know, but it was interesting how Kenzie sort of backtracked, and in the end, Maria got what she wanted, and Kenzie can't claim that move. Um, so that I mean, that was a very. I thought for sure that at some point down the line, Kenzie would follow through with getting to the end. I just thought that was going to happen.
Mhm.
So I was surprised when in this episode she backtracked. I'm not surprised that Maria went forward with it. It was a good move on Maria's part. I don't know how it's going to pay off exactly. Like I said earlier, I don't know if it's going to actually pay off or if she's going to just set herself up as a power player.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
she should have just gone after Kenzie because who is now going to go after Maria? Kenzie.
See, that
If
was
she can.
my thought process is that in my whole like going into this whole episode here, and we see the shot with Maria talking to Q on the beach. For some reason, I really thought that this whole plan was going to be to well, Kenzie in a way like Todd was Jean Robert. It's like you have the same moves that I'm thinking of. I need you to go so
Yep.
I could get rid of so I could be the one making these moves. I figured Maria would be like, okay, well, Kenzie's thinking of the same moves that I am. Kenzie needs to go. But instead, you're right, she is now left here. They left actually probably someone who has a stronger link to their own alliance than Tiffany. I don't know how close
Yeah,
Tiffany was to everybody in comparison of Kenzie. I feel like she wasn't just because people were so
she
much
wasn't.
more ready to sell her out than Kenzie
I
is.
also think that people knew that Tiffany was a threat. I mean, she
Oh, for
wasn't,
sure.
the best in challenger. She wasn't. I mean, but she was. She's strong. She had a power. I mean, I think that Tiffany was absolutely a threat.
Mhm.
So good on them for getting rid of her. But also, like, I don't know, she did it to sort of. I mean, Maria did it to sort of like pull one over on Kenzie, right? Like, oh, that's a move that I wanted to make. I don't want you to get credit for it, so I'm gonna do it. So yeah, like we said, she could have got rid of Kenzie. But I'm really curious. So the way this is set up, Venus was I don't know if Venus was in on it. She voted for Q.
I don't think Venus was in on it.
Liz, yeah, I don't think Venus was. I don't think she was either. So now Kenzie is perfectly set up to work with Venus. Because Venus also gets mad when she's not included on things and she wants to have
Mhm.
power and she wants to pretend that she knows what's going on, right? Um, and also you have Liz, who sort of reluctantly voted out Tiffany. So she sort of reluctantly kept Q in. I don't think Liz will ever stop wanting Q out. So you have Kenzie, Venus, and Liz who could potentially work together. How many do we have left? Seven,
There
right?
would be, I believe, seven, because we also have
So yeah. So right
then
there, you
see,
have a
yeah,
group
there's
of
two orange, two purple, and three green
yeah.
still left.
So right there, I think I see a new group of three: Kenzie, Venus, and Liz could potentially just join them to get Q out, and then you have Kenzie's connection to Ben, which I think will come back to be important. And so I don't know, but potentially those four could get together and become the new alliance.
Mm-hmm. I
If
can see
if
that
Charlie and
honestly.
Maria if Charlie and Maria just expose themselves as power players who could pull out a surprise blindside, if they did it and Kenzie's still in the game, you could potentially get Venus, Ben, maybe Liz to retaliate.
I also have one
That's
other
me
thing
thinking
about the whole
ahead.
the Kenzie storyline here too. Um, Something that feels like it kind of comes full circle now. What was like the biggest rivalry, I should say, at Yanu? Kenzie and Q. Who are the only two purples left? Kenzie
Sure, yeah.
and Q.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't really remember everything, but I do remember that at a certain point, Kenzie's ass was grass and she
Mhm.
was saved because of a medevac. Is that what it was? Or they didn't go
Yep,
to tribal council and
because
they were
Banu
setting that
prayed
up
for
to be,
Jesus and he injured Randin. He gave him a pinch to
yeah. And they were setting that up as, oh, Kenzie was this power player. Now she's sort of getting caught being too much, and it was Q and Tiffany, right, who were gonna get rid of Kenzie, and then she's sort of saved by that medevac. And so yeah, they were I mean, they were sort of the rivals, right?
Yep. Yep.
It's
And
interesting. Yeah,
they're still
yeah,
left. I'm like, this makes perfect narrative sense that it would be between these two here. It's a situation here where Kenzie now has to narratively get rid of Q, like it's basically been she's wanted to do since the start in order to get to the end here. I could also see a situation where maybe she works with Q because it really feels, if I could be very well, I mean, at this point, I think Q is going here. I thought at one point that Q and Venus were both like possibly setting up for being in the end here together. Don't think I could see a world here now where Q and Venus make it to the final three. But I can see a Kenzie Ben Venus final three. And I could
I
definitely
can.
see a world where yeah, where you're right, where Kenzie will pull Ben over. And that will probably be what ends up losing Ben's vote because he'll be the one screwing over Charlie and Maria.
Yeah, I just think that even though Liz sort of proved what I'm about to say wrong this episode, I think it would still be important to try to use Liz's hatred of Q to your advantage and try to get her to vote Q again.
Oh yeah, for
You know,
it makes
like
sense because
just might as
especially if
well
you
just
have
try to use that um hatred, I guess. Even though Maria and Charlie were able to convince her to vote out Tiff, like I don't know, try to if I was Kinsey, try to pull Liz back, or I don't know.
I could see a world where Q goes next just because like say Maria and Charlie, if even if they want to vote Kenzie, Ben might not want to. Venus might not
Ben
want to.
won't. I
Q
don't
would.
think Venus
Okay,
will.
sure, but if Liz is dead set on voting for Q, then they only have three votes.
If Yeah, if Kenzie can, legitimately convince Venus that she wants to work with her, I think Venus will. I mean, because Venus has always wanted someone who will work with her.
Mhm,
Venus wants to make a move. She wants to be involved. She wants to sort of be a power player. So the fact that if she truly was left out of this Tiffany blind side, whoever approaches Venus with sincerity first and is actually willing to clearly work with Venus is, I think, going to reap a lot of benefits from it. And whoever
mhm.
does that, I think, will succeed.
I could see that definitely for sure. And they've proven here. I mean, Kenzie's whole story is that she can relate to basically anybody. So time to show it here, Kenzie.
Yeah.
Um, I do just want to bring up one other person here and talk about one other thing here tonight because I would be remiss to bring up this podcast and not talk about the Applebee's freak out we had tonight from Liz.
Right.
That we've had so many good meltdowns this season. As much as I love the Banu, like, God, why did you put me on here to if it was gonna how it was gonna happen? I think tonight's with Liz could possibly be one of my favorite moments that I've ever had. I feel
Good.
terrible saying this, but just the amount of
Because there
jokes
was
that
a
just came
certain,
from that bourbon burger.
yes,
It's too
because
much.
there was a certain level of ridiculousness about the story that was being projected with, like, oh my god, I love Applebee's so much, it means so much to my daughter, blah blah blah. And that's this weird, it sort of feels like this fake story. Like, it just seems so weird that that's her storyline. So there's this level of ridiculousness, but then you have this very real frustration of Liz being so pissed, and I think it was Q. Q won. She tried to get rid of Q. She wanted Q gone. I mean, the person she wanted gone is the one that wins her the challenge. She almost got the bag up at that thing. She was so close, it almost stuck. I thought she almost had it, even though based on the preview, I knew she did because
Mm,
obviously. Anyways, but she
right.
was so close to winning. Her bag almost landed. And then the person who she hates the most, who is her biggest rival, is the one that wins, takes that win from her, and then is the one that doesn't choose her. And I think there's this frustration of her knowing that she's been gunning for Q and Q knows it. So of course Q won't pick her. I mean, she sat there and said, I'm gonna beg, 'cause she knows she has to beg. She knows that she's not getting chosen, so she has to just be pathetic and beg for it. And so she has this freak out moment because she's so pissed about the Q thing, but also because Emily's such a favorite. And so there's this level of real be her really seriously being pissed off, and then there's this like hilarious backstory. So it was a great meltdown. It was really funny and also kind of sad, but just funny. But she must know that she must have been kicking herself because the one person that she probably couldn't ever convince was the one who made a decision.
Mhm.
Now I was a little confused. Are they not allowed to give up their spot on reward? Like if Q chooses someone else, are they not allowed to give it up?
I think they could have. I just don't think they did.
Because in
Q
previous
should
seasons,
have given
because
that up to Liz. 'Cause that
oh
would have
my
been
god,
brilliant. That would have been brilliant. That would
well,
have been amazing.
I mean, well, anyone else could have. Anyone like Kenzie could have. Anyone else could have been like, "Oh, I'll give it up," and have their little hero moment, right? I'm a little bit surprised that someone didn't do that because of everyone who's trying to, build this resume and do these good deeds and whatever else, and do these big things. Like no one else gave up the reward for Liz. Who cares about Q? Kenzie or Tiff or whoever else is chosen. Damn, give it up for the starving girl, right? But they didn't.
I could kind of see
Any
why
one of
they
them could
wouldn't
have.
want to, just because I feel like the last few times, or at least that was a very prominent like
It
San
comes
Juan del Sur. Like they did it all the
it comes
time, and then
across
as
as
soon as
fake.
they would do it, they would get voted out. Like I remember Jeremy getting out of
Right.
war
It
and he
comes
got voted
across as fake, right?
out.
It
Yeah.
comes across as fake.
So I get why they
But
wouldn't do
also,
it,
but also
but
this, but also everyone is really savage. I mean, no one will
mhm,
sit out for Rice.
mhm.
Everyone is savage about. They don't give a fuck, or they don't give a crap about her food.
It's a very selfish season in that aspect.
Oh yeah,
Like
they
these
they
people
really
are
do not
for
care about her food.
themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to
So
say to
in a
some degree,
sense,
it's
it's
like
like,
you have
oh,
to
they're
kind of
savage.
respect that because like it's not necessarily their fault that she can't eat anything else outside of certain things, you know. But at the
Yeah.
same time though too, what
Also,
I felt was kind of gross about it is the fact that they're gonna sit there and just chastise Q about not picking her. But then, like you said here, nobody even brings up the fact that anybody could
that's
have just switched with her
yeah.
too, you know. But
That
they're
was
gonna
what
say
I
that
thought. I
Q's the
mean,
bad
everyone.
guy about it, and it's like, well, like,
Yeah.
I don't think we need to put a blame
I
here. This isn't like a he's not trying to kill Liz. Liz will get food in 5 days, you know, when the show's
right.
over, whatever. But
I fully support Q's decision. She was coming after him and she was pissed. She is very vocal about who she doesn't like and she wants Q out. And Q was under no obligation. He didn't owe her anything.
mhm.
Like I fully support him not choosing her if he doesn't want to.
I'll
Now
say
I
with
don't
the
support
oh,
anyone
go ahead.
else giving him grief. No one else who won the reward should give him grief about it because if they didn't give it up, you know, they're just
Mhm.
liable to Liz eating. But also, it's the whole thing about it's a shorter season. The hunger is probably not as intense as it is in previous seasons. So you're referring to other seasons of like, oh, they gave it up to the person who didn't eat. That stuff happens on day 30, 31, 32, whatever. Those people really haven't been eating for days. Okay, this is an 18-day, they're on day 18 or whatever.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was day
it's 18
19
days,
when
but
this happened. Yeah.
it's not 30, right? And so I think there is a real difference there between 18 days and 30 days, 34 days or whatever, um, where they give these rewards. And so I think the fact that they know, yeah, you're gonna be eating in a couple days. No one's gonna die from starvation on Survivor. They won't let it happen.
Mhm. Not anymore.
They
I will
won't
say
let it
that the
happen. So
my favorite part about this whole drama though is the fact that when Kenzie went on the reward, she didn't even fucking eat the burger.
I mean, yeah.
I chuckled so hard when
Man,
she's
I
like,
would
"Oh
have
my
been
god!" And they brought out Liz's burger, and I didn't have any room.
yeah, it's
Savage,
funny.
savage. Uh, I think there's one other thing I kind of wanted to make sure that we kind of touched on here before we move forward into our closing up everything. In that with Liz, um, she does eventually apologize to Q, but she makes it very clear that she still hates him. Do you think? Well, actually, I think we kind of maybe already touched this movie move forward here. Is this the last time that Liz will make a vote that keeps Q in this game? Is Liz going to be the anti-Q moving forward? And is it possible that now because Liz takes Tiffany's spot as like the anti-Q, that maybe she ends up getting herself kicked out by like a Kenzie who is just wanting to try to hang on for another day?
So you're asking me to predict what's going to happen to Liz?
Yeah, I'm trying to get like a bit. I feel like I don't see a world here now where
That Liz
Liz
will
makes it to the final
ultimately.
three. I see her getting voting out at some point. Unfortunately, her edit hasn't been
Yeah,
like
I
a
think Tiffany's
Venus
very
where she's been
unpredictable.
negative the entire time. Like she pops up here and there. She's been like a funny character, but now
She'll say
she's
like, "Oh
like
yeah,
all over the
uh,
place. But she's also
Q
seems
Q
to
is a
be very
perfect joke."
strategic.
Or
Like the Tevin vote
yeah,
is supposed to be hers,
I
right?
think that Liz. Yeah, whatever. Um, I think that Liz will be used to get rid of Q. I think they would be stupid not to. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
feel
don't know
like
what's gonna
we're
happen to Liz. Liz's storyline is always she's just she's right under the surface of the water, right? Like she's not quite the person who's attacking and making the big moves. She's just always right there, and that's why she's frustrated. I think we saw it sometimes like that's my move, that's my move, that's my move, but she's just always just right there. I don't know. I don't see her getting cut. I don't see her getting cut next.
should go out and
I
fire
don't.
maybe.
I don't.
Is it
Maybe
because I feel like sometimes they give the person that goes out and fire a really jacked up edit with no story because it's just like their story just ends. Either they get like random like hints for them like sucking at
they
fire, or their
or they
story
get
just
the hero edit, right?
yeah just gets
Yeah.
kind of chopped off at the end there. And I'm like, so I mean, I could kind of if we're looking at a possible final three, which I think we could kind of just talk about predictions here now too, because sadly Miss Tiff's gone. I kind of felt it for a few number of weeks because her merge
Mhm.
edit really sucked. But I think at this point, I am all in on Kenzie. I don't see any reason to vote against her, even though she's kind of in a like a shitty position right now. I think we kind
Right.
of already discussed why she's actually in a really good position and why she could
Yeah.
possibly make these last episodes kind of, she could really kind of take control here and make her mark.
Yeah. And you and I talked about this, just before we started recording this podcast, that this episode was kind of a weird surprise to us. Like her edit, like just her position at this point. And I'm not going to ignore all the other episodes where I thought that she was getting a very good edit. And so I don't see her just suddenly dropping off next. Um, I think that she could be either a person who's in the final three, or be the person who was by fire. Because sometimes they get like this hero edit too. But I do see her, even though she's left out of the vote, I don't see her going. I see her going to the end somehow. Um, I see Maria and Charlie getting split up at some point. So one of them I think might go to the end because they're also getting this very strong strategic edit and they're
Mhm.
making good decisions. But I think only one of them can make it. Um, I mean, they could both possibly make it, but it would be kind of weird for people to overlook the fact that they're a pair.
Mhm. Do you edge one over
But I
the
don't
other?
know. But also, um, probably Maria strategy, even
See,
though
I'm kind of
Charlie's good
edging
at it.
Charlie. If Kenzie isn't the winner, I feel like Charlie's kind of giving me all of the right answers, but at the same time though
I think,
too, I kind of also flip
but
like
I think,
I go to the Denise Malcolm like comparison, and Denise had a very more subdued edit than Malcolm did,
yeah.
right?
But you know what?
And
I see people being more bitter to this movie. If they're bitter toward anyone, it'll be towards Maria, in my opinion.
mm, okay, okay.
Like I don't
So
know if you
okay.
say we made these moves, like I don't know, they make me bitter. I don't know.
See,
Where Charlie has this sort of like I'm a I'm a Swiftie. I'm so likable.
I just can't imagine them not trying to make a move on each other. Like I've never seen.
Maria and Charlie.
Yeah, in the new era, it's like this is well, actually, I wouldn't say the longest because we had Jesse and Cody work together to like what final five, final six, and then that's when Jesse flipped on Cody as six. Um, like I could kind of for I don't know why, but Charlie, Maria, I could they kind of are being built up kind of like in a way like a Jesse Cody to the point where I could kind of see them getting picked off before the top four
Mm,
for fire.
yeah.
Um, but I also could if one of them sneaks through, I would kind of edge Charlie. But I
Mhm.
this Kenzie Ben Venus final three just it just seems right. It seems logical to me for some reason. So I
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm
I think
leaning
it
at the
depends on
moment.
if they get together next episode. I sort of explained why I think they could or should maybe just on paper get together. Um, I think we depending on how it plays out next episode, if Venus, if Kenzie and get with Venus and bring along Ben and maybe convince Ben that he's kind of on the outside of Charlie and Maria, those three go and kind of bring Liz in as like a stray, sort of take power with Liz and then maybe drop her at the end. Maybe they can go to the end.
Mhm. And I feel like Ben's story might be picking up a little bit. They've been giving him like random uh, spots like here and there, and for some reason I feel like that like tonight, well they had that random spot today, and someone in the chat was like, "Oh yeah, they're just making sure that we remember that Ben's there." I feel like it's
Right,
one of those
right.
things where it's like I think he's gonna start getting a little bit more content now soon because eventually he's going to have to make the move that hopefully we're thinking that Kenzie convinces him to make because otherwise.
Yeah. But
I don't even know
what
what
you
to think
said
of who could
what you
possibly
said
win
about them making sure you don't forget about Ben. I don't think it's for Ben's benefit. I think it's for Kenzie's benefit that we don't forget about Ben. I think we have to remember that Ben is important to Kenzie.
here.
But that's just the way I think when I look at it.
I could see it. I feel it. I mean, I get what you're saying completely. And I mean, we'll kind of see, I guess, moving forward here. This seems like a very, like, comparing to last season specifically, like, I felt very strong in the early merge. Like, once Kelly was gone, I was like, Dee's winning. I don't have
Oh
that
yeah, it
feeling
was obvious.
anymore from anybody here. Like, even Kenzie, like, especially this
That's
episode
true.
now. But they do like
Yeah.
to kind of put the winner in perilous positions because obviously they need a way to work themselves out. Like I always go to that first episode of Survivor 37, David Goliath, where they made Nick seem like he was going to get voted out, and then what happened? He just
Hmm.
turned it around and moved forward. I kind of feel like that might be what we're getting with Kenzie, but I mean, we'll
Wow.
gonna kind of
And
see.
Nick was saved with the medevac as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just a very similar like story that they kind of do on some episodes where it's like I feel like they don't necessarily have like a reason to feature people. They're gonna be, oh well, let's put our winner in a perilous position and make them seem like they're gonna get voted out here when they're probably weren't even gonna go. So
Right. Yeah.
it's storytelling.
But I do have to agree with you where one of the reasons why I didn't like last season is because I did peg D as a winner like way early on. So I just was annoyed. I didn't like it very much. I just every episode I was like it's obvious, but I saw the editors trying to trick us or trying to make it seem like it was going to happen. But I don't know. I did not like last season. I actually never even finished it. I didn't watch the finale
Oof.
um,
I
or the
mean,
last couple episodes. I just didn't like it. I don't know. Like
did you hear about what
in the
happened at
end.
that final
Okay,
five vote? That
tangent.
final five vote was the most ridiculous vote I've ever seen in my entire life.
I don't know. I don't know. I never even saw or read about it. I think at some point once Emily was voted out, I was done.
Understandable.
I was so
Understandable.
annoyed. I was so annoyed.
I was Team Emily and I was Team Jake,
This,
and then Jake was like had one of the saddest stars for someone in the merge. I
oh
was just like, I can't. I
yeah,
can't.
yeah. So whereas this season, I feel like it's up, and I'm more interested to see how the dynamics go versus last season, where it was like, okay, it's obvious, like I know what's happening. It's not interesting. I'm feeling the opposite for this season.
Mhm. I feel like they've done a much better
So
job
yeah,
of hiding
I'm
things.
looking forward to the next episode. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm feeling better, so we'll definitely be back next week. And we'll
Yeah,
kind of
and I'm glad,
see.
I'm glad I'll join the server again. It was fun. I haven't watched this season. Like I said, I sort of binge watched a bunch of episodes once, but now I'll be watching the last few guys. So it was fun.
Yes, Phil, you better be joining. And if anybody else wants to join, comment below. And possibly I'll let you into the Discord here. I definitely think over the next few weeks here we will be curating a Discord server here for possibly like a Patreon type thing. But we'll kind of look into that as the weeks go here. But I definitely would love, love, love to get watch parties going because the watch parties we have going on with our group are tons of fun. Ever since I don't think I could have dealt with Gabler winning if I didn't have a bunch of people around me witnessing the same thing. So, um, good times, good times. And Phil, thank you again for being here. So much great insight. I knew for a fact. I knew you're a great gamer. I don't know if why we never got a final two together. I feel like we never played together that often though. I feel like when you kind of returned to games, I had kind of retired at that point. But like, let's
Yep.
join a game and get final two. I think we owe that to us. Okay,
Shh. Don't
okay,
spoil it.
deal.
Yep.
Alrighty, Bill. Well, thanks again for coming tonight. I appreciate you. And everybody out there
Yep.
listening, thank you so much. I hope you guys had a great time. Again, like, subscribe for more content. We will be back next week for another reality podcast. And until then, I'm Renegade, signing off. Bye.
Bye.